As any creature more sentient than an amoeba surely knows, the United Kingdom is the land where everything is policed except crime. There have been any number of stories in recent years of the constabulary harassing the citizenry in their homes over so-called hate incidents, by which they mean a tweet making a purportedly transphobic joke or some such. One man who fell victim to the peeler's preference for investigating Twitter non-crimes rather than real-world crimes was Harry Miller, a former policeman himself, who was investigated by Humberside Police for tweets questioning whether trans women were real women. Having determined that no crime had taken place, the Humberside Police nevertheless logged it as a non-crime hate incident, which they define as one perceived by another to be motivated by prejudice. So they piled up a big book filled with names of people who've committed no crime, but nevertheless hold the wrong views, or as Police Constable Gull told Mr. Miller, "I need to check your thinking," which is the sort of thing that a Chinese policeman says, but not until recently a British policeman. This week, the Court of Appeal in England found that recording non-crime hate incidents violates freedom of expression, which is being presented as a great victory for free speech, but the British Constabulary is still keeping Chinese-style social credit scores on citizens based merely on tweets that dissent from the woke narrative. Harry Miller himself joins me now. Harry, how pleased are you by this decision?
On a scale of 1 to 10, about 150, quite frankly. It's superb. We have struck a blow. We have struck a Christmas blow to freedom on behalf of the British people and, as a consequence, the rest of the world. I mean, with a little bit of luck, this will roll out into China, and we can save them as well. How about that?
Okay, you're in a buoyant, and you haven't come down yet from your post-verdict high from the Court of Appeal here, and that's good to see. But you had a tough. I mean, you're a policeman yourself. I take it would not have occurred. An ex-policeman. The police today, I remember John O'Sullivan, Mrs. Thatcher's old speechwriter, saying to me about 20 years ago that the police were becoming the paramilitary wing of The Guardian. They're actually wackier than The Guardian on some of these things. The Constable Gull, who told you he had to check your thinking, in what version of Sir Robert Peel's concept of British policing is that a thing that a constable says to a citizen?
Well, that's the problem. We've moved so far away from anything that Peel would have recognised as a police force. I'm friends with a former assistant chief constable of Merseyside, and he told me that back in the olden days, when the orange parades were on around the streets of Liverpool, he would tell all his officers, don't even accidentally march in time with the band in case it looks like you have a particular political preference. Now, of course, with Pride, the police literally provide the band because they've embraced certain politics. They've embraced LGBT politics, and this is the truth. If you go against those politics, as I did, I said the absolutely absurd thing that only women have vaginas and only men have penises. That caused them to send a peace eagle to knock on my door. That's not right in a civilized, free, libertarian, democratic society. And since this Court of Appeal ruling, if the police continue to behave like that, well, I've got news for them, because from this day forward, I'm going to be the one that knocks, because I am now the danger. And I know that sounds a little bit like Breaking Bad, because it is Breaking Bad, because I'm proper badass. When it comes to chief constables, I am proper badass. They are not going to turn us into a Soviet-style, Chinese-style, Orwellian-style police force on my watch, because I'm the kind of bloody-minded individual that knows right from wrong, and I'm an immovable force, and I will just keep going until I win. This particular fight took me 3 years. They figured that I would have packed in ages ago, but I didn't. I just kept going because I know the difference between right and wrong. and they were wrong. And finally, the Court of Appeal agreed.
Yeah, you've inflicted victories on the Chief Constable of Humberside Police, who's a chump and shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. But you've also, in this Court of Appeal decision, you inflicted huge damage on the so-called guidance, which is this poorly drafted, drivelling pap that in fact licenses the police because it defines a crime as somebody taking offence. So if they can find someone who objects to a tweet of yours, they can go and kick your door down and tell you to stop tweeting. The judge has asked those guys, has basically told those guys they got to go back and rewrite the guidance. Do you think they're going to give up that kind of nonsense?
I think they're going to have to give it up, quite frankly. I mean, it wasn't 24 hours and then Priti Patel suddenly marched into the fight, didn't she? And told the College of Policing to get rid of the guidance. Because she let me do all the heavy lifting, of course, and put my house at risk, put my home at risk, put my mental health at risk. But once I'd won, she came, riding in on her valiant horse to take a little bit of credit. And quite frankly, I don't mind Priti Patel taking a little bit of credit. No. If she's prepared to enshrine freedom of speech back into English law, then fine, she can share in some of the glory. I do think it's sad, though, that these great challenges are left to individuals like me to take on. I think that is fundamentally unfair, fundamentally wrong. And had they not come across me, Toby Young called me the wrong man. And I am the wrong man because anybody else other than me would have let it slide. And that's what they were relying on. But they did. They picked the wrong guy. I went in and I absolutely slaughtered them. That's
a great way to put it, Harry. They picked the wrong guy. And it would be a much healthier country if we had 20, 30, 40, 50 million Harrys, just like this Harry, willing to do that. But the Harry Priti Patel thing, Harry, that's the way the politicians are all finger in the wind, squishy, focus group, all the rest of it. And what you need to do is force these people who don't believe in anything, don't believe in first principles. Some guy like you has to come along with first principles and force Priti Patel to jump on the bandwagon you started. You're the guy on the white Charger. She's riding on the back of the bandwagon. Congratulations on your victory, Harry.